Welcome to the Pint Glass Football Podcast.
What's up, PGF Nation? We are back for another betting preview episode. We'll each tell you some of our favorite betting picks in the NFL and the College Football Conference Championship games. I'm your host, Brad Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Alex Higdon. Alex, what is going on?
So, Brad, we're down to the wire. Coaches are moving. Penn State still doesn't have a coach. I don't know why, but we'll have to wait and see. But this is all a big college football weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We got coaches moving all over the place right now. National Signing Day just wrapping up at the time of this recording. So a lot of big movement in college football for sure. I'm going to start with one of my favorite bets of this upcoming weekend. We're going to start in the NFL. I like the Washington Commanders plus 2.5 at the Minnesota Vikings. I have no idea why the Vikings are favored here. I know they're at home, but this just looks like a mismatch to me. We could possibly see the return of Jaden Daniels. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but if he plays, I really like Washington if he plays. But even if he doesn't, I still feel good about this bet because Marcus Mariota has done a nice job efficiently running this offense. Commanders, they're still playing hard. We saw in that Sunday night game against the Denver Broncos, this team hasn't shown any quit at all. So I expect them to come out and play hard in this game despite their record. And we know the Vikings quarterback situation has been a complete disaster. Whether it's JJ or Max Brosmer, I don't really care because this team is a mess under center. Minnesota's defense is not really the same defense that we saw last year either. So this is a team that I feel like has really gone off the rails, and I think Washington here is a good play.
Yeah, that was one of the bets that I had, so like mine's think alike. I think, Brad, when we get to the end of the season, we start to go through our quote-unquote State of the Unions. The Vikings is going to be an interesting discussion because as far as I'm concerned, they're literally a 12 to 16 ranking in the NFL quarterback away from being in the playoffs.
I think it's clearly been one of the biggest misses so far. JJ gets hurt his rookie year, loses a bunch of time, obviously. Some crucial time that he could have developed as a quarterback, and that's not necessarily his fault, but he's also dealt with some injuries this year. And look, I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy, but, he was a developmental prospect, hasn't had a lot of time to develop, and he just hasn't looked ready to play in the league. I'm not saying he won't ever get there, but it's been a mess so far. So it's really derailed this team and what they've been trying to do this year for sure. Alex, what's your favorite NFL bet this weekend? Who do you like?
I never bet with or against my team for the most part, but I'm taking the Raiders in the 7.5 against Denver. Something tells me after the firing of Chip Kelly and a lot of things that we heard going on in the coaching rooms and Pete Carroll not getting along, I think Greg Olsen, who this is his third or fourth stint with the Raiders in the same position, I think he's going to be able to turn this offense around. And because I think Denver is going to be looking ahead, this can potentially be a trap game for them, and the Raiders can sneak up on them and win this game. Because the week after they play us, they play the Packers. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking ahead and they're looking past us, and we can probably sneak in and win this game.
Yeah, I don't hate that bet. You got a divisional matchup here. Those games tend to be a little closer than expected. You're getting over a touchdown in that game. And as good as Denver's been, they've been in a lot of close games. So getting 7.5, even if the Raiders don't win that game, I think they could cover. So I like that bet. Next one for me, Alex, I'm going to take the New York Jets plus 2.5 versus the Miami Dolphins. Tua, look, historically has struggled in cold weather road games, especially under 40 degrees. From everything I've read, it's going to be nasty and cold up in the Northeast. That Jets defense has actually improved since the Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner trades. And then add in on the offensive side, Tyrod Taylor has stabilized this offense. This team looks a little better than the team we saw earlier in the year. And like I said, Dolphins outdoors versus a physical defense. I just think this is a tough matchup for the Miami Dolphins, and I think there's value there with the Jets getting some points at home especially.
Like that bet, and on top of that, also give me Breece Hall over 100 total yards.
I like it. Throwing in the prop there, definitely. Alex, what do you got next in the NFL for us?
Next in the NFL, I have another interesting game. The Cardinals, 7.5 over the Rams. The Rams coming off a loss. They're going to want to get back on track. But once again, another game that they could be possibly looking ahead. I know Sean McVay is a good coach, but right after they have the Cardinals, they have the Lions. But one thing I'll say about this, the Cardinals play very well at home. That defense does cook. Jacoby Brissett, he has them in those games, but then he usually makes a big mistake or he can't make the big play to kind of get them over the hump. But with them looking ahead to the Lions, give me the Cardinals here to sneak up and either beat the Rams or at least cover the 7.5.
Yeah, once again, 7.5 points. That's a lot of points really in any NFL game. And when you're talking about a divisional matchup, once again, I think there's some value there. The only thing that makes me nervous about this matchup is if you look at Sean McVay's track record versus the Cardinals, this is a team that he has dominated historically. For whatever reason, defensively, they just have a really hard time matching up with this Rams offense. And I think with all the 12 and 13 personnel that we've seen integrated into this offense, there's going to be a lot of stuff over the middle and in the seam where the Cardinals struggle the most defensively. That's the one thing that makes me a little nervous where I think this game could get away from the Cardinals. But I do agree with everything you're saying here as far as the value. The Cardinals have been in a lot of games. They've been in a lot of close games. So this is a team that has a lot of fight. So for me, it's a stay away game, but I totally understand being on the side that you're on. And I believe that line opened at 8 and it's down to 7.5, which tells you there's some sharp money coming onto the Cardinals here. So there's definitely some sharp bettors that like the side that you're on there, Alex. My next NFL team that I like here is the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to lay the 3.5 points versus the Titans. Now, the Browns at home facing a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward who, look, this guy, we talked about it on the recent episode. This kid just looks lost right now. He holds the ball way too long, and he does it behind a bad Titans offensive line. That spells serious trouble for this Titans offense because I think Myles Garrett has a legitimate chance to have a monster game. I'm talking 3 or 4 sacks in this game.
Again.
Yeah, another monster game because we know right now this guy is just playing at a completely another level. And they're at home. The Browns are at home, that is. This defense has been very, very good at home. So, yeah, give me the Browns here to cover. That defense, I think, is going to be a real problem for the Titans. I expect some turnovers, and I think this could be a lopsided game.
Well, this is going to be interesting because I agree with you. The Browns only have 3 wins. One of them have come from Shador. The other one has come from Dylan Gabriel. The other one's come from Joe Flacco. Shador's going to be the leading quarterback with the most wins if he continues to start because they're in line to beat the Titans. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes, but he's going to be 2-1 going into the next week with against Chicago. But Brad, lastly, give me the Cowboys because the Cowboys are hot and the Cowboys can attack what the Lions don't do well, which is attack their secondary with those 2 wide receivers in CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. And what the Lions do well, the Cowboys have now beefed up, which is their defensive line, specifically their run defense. So Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, I don't see them getting 100. One of those guys getting 100 yards, and I see the Cowboys perhaps I think the Cowboys win this by 10 or more.
All right, let's shift to some college football picks here. We got college football championship games, the SEC championship game, Alabama, Georgia. And look, I like Alabama plus 2.5 here versus Georgia. Alabama has an explosive passing attack, and I think it matches up well against Georgia's pass defense. That's been the weakness for them this year. And I think Bama's going to be able to expose them and get some points on the board here. I also have been looking at Alabama's run game. It's looked a lot better the last couple of weeks. So this offense is starting to really put it together. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball against Georgia. Now, I also think there's a little bit of a motivation factor here because Alabama needs this win. They need this win to punch their ticket to the college football playoff. If they lose, there's a very serious chance that they're out. Georgia doesn't need this win. Even with the loss, I think there's no doubt Georgia is in the field. So I think you're going to see an Alabama team that's going to come in really fired up to play this game. Look, they're both going to be fired up. It's a big game. There's a championship on the line. Don't get me wrong. but I think there's a little extra motivation factor for Alabama in this. But here's the other pick that I like here in this game, Alex. I expect both teams to be able to move the ball. So I'm taking the over 47.5 as well. I think this is going to be a little bit of a shootout. So Alabama plus 2.5, and I like the over the point total as well.
Tough game to call, especially after what we saw earlier this season, Alabama taking Georgia down. But I think it's going to be Georgia's running attack that is probably going to either be a key factor here. And I think Georgia's gang of running backs is going to be a point of emphasis here in taking Alabama down. So I'll take Georgia in this game. I'm going to go North Texas versus Tulsa and the 2.5 points and North Texas to take out Tulane. Even though John Summerall, my future head coach, or rather my head coach now, is still going to be coaching this game, still give me North Texas 2.5 points.
I like North Texas in that matchup as well. I'm going to go to the Big 12 championship game, and I'm going to take Texas Tech, and I'm going to lay the 12.5 points versus BYU. Look, I think BYU's been overrated this season. I just don't think they're as good as that record. And the last time these teams matched up earlier this year, it was a complete blowout. And I don't think anything has changed since then. This is a roster mismatch. And I just don't think BYU has the talent or the physicality, especially in the trenches, to be able to match up with this Texas Tech team. I think Texas Tech is absolutely for real. It's the only team that I would pick outside of the SEC or Big Ten that I think has a legit chance to win the national title. They're that talented, and I just don't see BYU in that class. I think they're a big favorite for a reason, but I think they win this thing going away. So I'm going to lay the points with Texas Tech.
I don't have anything so eloquently say about BYU. Yes, the CFP put them at 11. They put them right on the brink. This was the reason why they needed to put them on the brink. So when Texas Tech demolishes them, they are out, and they can turn their focus to AJ DeBanza and the basketball team. Before we get out of here, Brad, I have a bonus pick, and this is just me rooting for chaos. I want Duke to beat Virginia. I don't think they will, but just for the sake of chaos, give me Duke over Virginia. Money line.
I love it, man. You know what? That would be the craziest outcome of all. And you're right. I think unless you have a rooting interest in that game, I think a lot of us are rooting for that scenario because it would absolutely lob a grenade into the CFP projections, and it would be so fun to see the chaos after a win like that and just to see where everything settles when the smoke clears. So I'm with you, man. Go Blue Devils this weekend. That would be absolutely fun.
Bye.
That is going to do it for today's episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to give us a like, hit that subscribe button as well so you don't miss out on any future episodes. But once again, I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. This is Pint Glass Football, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Pint Glass Football Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at PGFPOD.